Welcome everybody to another Friday night and something different on this channel. Dadman Walking 55 greeting you here. Hope you all come in for a good night of something different. You know, we've spent a whole about 5 months talking college football. Well, we're going to try to talk a little bit about the pro football leagues, the NFL going forward as we're entering the playoff season, and share some old war stories, some old history, and then look at what's happening and going forward. Hopefully, if enough interest, maybe something we can do going forward throughout the playoffs and have some fun with this. And I love memes too. So, but without any further ado, I got to introduce my special star guest tonight, the man that's really a rock of all rocks and a great fella out there and a model of YouTube streamers everywhere. Hey, welcome to Great Clobbering Times. Hey, how are you doing, Clobby?
Hey, buddy. Thanks for that kind introduction. Appreciate it. Good to see you, man. Hello, everyone out there. And proud to be here, man. You've been a good pal, too. I made so many great friends here on YouTube over the past few years, and you are one of them, sir. And shout out to you and your wonderful family.
Absolutely, and thank you. And as you say that, the missus comes in and says, hello.
Mrs. What up, Mrs.?
I always say she's the beauty and the brains behind the operation.
Of course.
And especially the IT graphics and everything could not do it without her joining in the effort and stuff. So always a pleasure to have her around. Yeah, it's just good. Clobby, while we wait for people to come in the chat, we've talked a few times over the months, and you were on the college football where we focused on college football in the SEC show. And a lot of that, you mentioned that your experience was more NFL type stuff. So let's just start out with that again and go through that a little bit. What does the NFL mean to you? What is your history and legacy with that?
Well, first, congrats on crossing 100 subs.
Oh, thank you. I forgot to talk about that, but yes, thank you. Yeah,
no problem.
I appreciate it. And before I hold that question to respond, me thank you. Let me say, I forgot that.
That's okay. I forget all this stuff all the time, dude. You're good, brother.
Well, you get to remind me tonight. How about that? That's awesome. Well, listen, I tell you what. Thank you for reminding me of that, Clobby. I personally think you've been a great friend to our family, both my kids streaming and my stream, and you've put up kind words out for me, and thank you so much to you personally. I can say that to you publicly.
You got it, man. Glad to.
Absolutely. And I love the way you and Mark and Raquel together, even on Star Trek nights or Thursday night Clubhouse nights, y'all are so gracious to use your time to talk about other people and to greet them and, encourage them in this, because sometimes it can get difficult, But
thank you, man. Hey, Snorty.
Yeah. Hey, Snortopoopas is here. Snorty. Howdy. Hey, good to see you tonight. Oh, man, sorry you can't stay, but hey, thank you for coming by and leaving a like and some seal fritters.
Well, thanks for coming in, yeah.
Thanks for dropping in. We need some dinner tonight anyway, but hey. But but thank you to everybody that has started subbing to the channel. Hopefully you come by, look at things, even the stuff that we have out there already that's been recorded, because, one of the things that I've had is, a lot of times it's pigeonholing. I do a lot of Fortnite, I do a lot of football. So that's kind of what people start to focus is your Fortnite or football. But really, we're trying to get a lot more out there and do some different things. The other night I had a show and tell where I did some board games we got for Christmas. I've talked about a metallic hurricane chart. We're starting something detours with the Dadmans where we went to a sugarcane festival, and we also mapped out how many history places we've gone for the American Civil War, and we left at least probably 10 sites off we didn't even say on the stream. So, but my point to everybody is check us out, because we're more than just football, although tonight we are football.
Of course. But tonight you're football.
Absolutely. And, anytime, if you have any football questions out there, feel free to ask. Put it in the chat. We'll do our best to answer it. If you have any football memories, feel free to share them with us. And, we'll just have a good time together talking about our football memories, because we can go back a long way and we have a lot of memories. So
Yes, sir.
Thank you for that reminder, Clobby. Back to the question I asked you is what the NFL? What does it mean to you? Just explain your history with the NFL and what made it really good to you growing up.
Well, hey, Matty's daddy's here. What's up, buddy?
Absolutely. Hey, Steve.
Thanks for dropping him in. He's not a sports ball fan at all.
I know.
But I'm a fan of his nonetheless.
Exactly. And I tell you, Matty's daddy, if you do have questions about football, like I just said, ask him. If not, just sit around because you don't know what kind of silly things we have. I have some surprise memes that could be a little bit funny tonight. So I hope you can stick around a little. We try to make it.
Good to see you.
I really try hard to put stuff in here for the non-football fans too, because I want them to learn the game too. So,
no, I got you.
All right, we'll try it again, Chloe. So about the NFL.
Well, it's funny. I'm always so much in love with geek stuff, so comic books and Star Trek and all those other things. The only thing that I've passionately loved on a close to a level with my comics and that kind of stuff and science fiction, fantasy, geek related things, those sorts of things, is the NFL history, and for 50 years that combined with my favorite team, my once favorite team, the New Orleans Saints, my woeful beloved New Orleans Saints. Now, I guess at a very young age, I started, but before there was a New Orleans Saints, actually, when I was but a wee lad of no more than maybe 3 or 4 years old, I'll never forget. It was Super Bowl Sunday, which I had no knowledge of really, but I remember I knew that we were playing horseshoes in the backyard of where I live in my house, believe it or not, and I knew that horseshoe was the symbol of the Horsies team, they're the Colts. And they were playing some nasty team called the Jets in Super Bowl III. For some reason, I think my earliest football memory, I had to be, 3, 4 years old, was Super Bowl III, the legendary guarantee game of Joe Namath. Of course, I didn't know anything about that at the time, but just that, when I was, started going to school and going to the library and stuff, I would watch football at home, of course, and I would go look at football books in the library and things. And early on, I started getting, I couldn't read anything much, but I could look at the pictures, and I started learning a little bit about the game. And then I knew we had a team called the Saints. I also knew about the LSU Tigers here. They were really big in Baton Rouge. You and I've talked about that before, that I'm actually named, at least my parents, at least jokingly, and my grandmother used to jokingly say I was named after Mike the Tiger. Mike the Tiger is the mascot for the LSU Tigers. They've kept the tiger in a cage at LSU Stadium for 70, 80 years, different tigers over the years, So Mike the Tiger. So I don't know. But even though I liked LSU and I liked that, I somehow got more intrigued by pro football. I would read things about or watch NFL films. That started getting me into it. The artistic beauty and majesty of NFL films by Ed Sable and Steve Sable, showing the highlights. And then, of course, we got a football team in 1967. And a few years after they were around, when I started to kind of understand a little bit about what football was, I remember I broke my arm in an accident or something. My uncle, as a present, brings me this, and I kind of knew about the Saints at this point. I knew about LSU at this point. He brings me an autographed picture of a guy named Archie Manning, but he was wearing an Ole Miss outfit. And down here, if LSU fans hated Ole Miss. We had a saying down here that they used to yell proudly at things called "Go to hell, Ole Miss."
Yep,
it was a big rivalry back then. And so when I saw, why did you give me a picture of an Ole Miss guy? I was mad, right? I didn't know what the NFL draft was, but of course in 1971, the NFL was the first time then, and it wasn't like 20 years later, it happened again where two quarterbacks went 1 and 2. The first quarterback picked in that draft was Jim Plunkett. The second was Archie Manning by no one other than our local New Orleans Saints. And so I don't know, something about that. Even though he was wearing an Ole Miss uniform, he was going to be the Saints quarterback. So I just became the biggest fan of Archie Manning and started following it more closely around that point. We're talking 50 years ago and more. And I just started loving the Saints and started loving reading about, and watching films about players like Johnny Unitas and Bart Starr and Joe Namath and people like that, and started falling in love with the game. And then I think a year when I was also pretty young around that time, that I loved comic books, as I've told you, right? Well, we went to there was this Christian bookstore that we used to go get comic books for. They actually had Christian comic books, and one of them was called Tom Landry and the Dallas Cowboys. And it was a comic book all about Super Bowl VI, and then when the Cowboys beat the Dolphins, and for their first win as a franchise, 24-3, they beat the Dolphins in Super Bowl VI. And so I became enamored of that, and then I became torn a little bit because the Saints were always out of it by October. Saints were one of the worst teams ever.
Right.
October, November tops, they were eliminated from playoff contention. When I started understanding,
would you say they're a little bit better than when Tampa Bay came in, or
only a little?
Okay. Wow, that's not saying much.
Well, who do you think the first team Tampa Bay beat after 26 tries? Who do you think it was? It was here in this dome. It was against Archie and the Sad Saints. We were the first casualties of the expansion Tampa Bay Bucks, who got their first win in their second season. They went 0-14 in their first season.
So and you know their old legendary coach John McKay, who also coached the USC. He's attributed to the famous quote when the media asked him, what do you think about
how do you feel about your team's execution?
Your offense's execution. He's like, I'm all for it.
It was the team. So how do you feel about your team's execution? You're right, something like that. And like you said, he said, I'm for it.
Yeah. It's like,
but I loved him. But anyway, so Saints were always out of it, right? And as a kid, you watched football, and back then there were two prevalent teams, and there were a few, but it was the Cowboys or it was the Steelers.
Yep.
And we became huge fans of the Cowboys, like a lot of kids back then. Yes, we weren't betraying our Saints. We would like to have seen them win, but they were garbage. And we fell in love with Roger Staubach, Tom Landry, Tony Dorsett, Drew Pearson, Bob Willie, Randy White, Too Tall Jones, all these great players for the Cowboys. And so I became, because of NFL Films, which is the biggest aspect of all of this, I just became a huge fan of football. Down here, college football and pro football was it. We didn't really have we had no hockey team ever. We didn't have a baseball team. We did have the New Orleans Jazz for a while as far as a basketball team, and we watched that a little bit. But the only sport that ever captured me was I just love the game of football so much. I love everything about it. I love the X's and O's, the strategies, from the history of it, the way the game is played, how detailed and intricate it is, how complicated it is, how 11 moving parts have to work together, the coaching aspect of it, of course the action and the violence. I love the game, and I always have. And even though it's changed for 50 years from up until the year 2020, and if you told me right before that season there would be a time, even with the changing game, which was kind of the way that the rules and things have been changing were bothering me. If you told me there'd be a time when I did not care about the NFL anymore, I wouldn't have believed it. I didn't think it was possible.
I agree. I mean, a lot of times like that, it's like that slow progression downward, and you're like, okay, I can deal with this. I can deal with this. But then eventually, sometimes you hit that critical point where enough's enough. And and not to get too far off into it, but me and probably to you is when it started getting off the field issues. It's bad enough you have all these rule changes, because playing the games in the 70s are completely different than what they are today. But when they started going off into side issues that were not football related, it caused one more distraction that really turned off a lot of people.
And that happened to me, and I never thought it would, Yep. Hello there. Oh, she's geeky. Hello.
Yep. Thank you for lurking. I know she's still working, but we love the lurkers too.
Gotta always shout out to the lurkers. I forget to do it more. I don't do as much as I should, Dad, man. Try to make a habit of it.
Absolutely.
Shout out to anybody who's lurking or anyone who's listening to this later on a download. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Really appreciate it.
Yep. Anybody that listens at any time, it's much appreciated, and you're part of the show, and you're supporting our channel, and we thank you. So
but I just love the game, man. Look, a lot of people would tell you, Dad, man, that they like they're more. I cannot tell you how many times I've heard people say, "Oh yeah, I love football, but I like college football more. It's more exciting, and I don't really like the pros." I respect that, but I'm the complete opposite. I like college football, but to me, the pros. Look how smaller the there's only 32 teams, not 400 teams, and the talent pool is so much more closed, and it's the highest level the game can be played at. That's what I love about NFL at its best. And then you have another friend just popped in.
Yeah. Dear Mill 51, hello. Hey. Hi, welcome here. Hope you like football. We're going to have some fun talking. So, but yeah, it's, the game has really changed from the 70s on. You remember the days when like back then, one of the famous instances was Jack Youngblood, broke his leg. He played
with a broken leg.
On a broken leg. He just
actually played 2 games with a broken leg.
Was it 2? Wow.
He played 2 playoff games. Well, an end of the season game, and he played a playoff game in it when he was with the Rams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just, and you don't see that as much this day and age. Everybody's about Hey,
Courtney.
Hey, you guys. Hey, Courtney. Yeah. Thank you for coming. Yeah,
it's nice to have
let me shout out real quick,
tonight.
Bobby, before I forget. If you're new to the channel, make sure if you're on the Twitch side, follow us over there. And if you're on YouTube, make sure you like the videos, subscribe to the channel, and
Indeed.
As I was telling Clobby earlier, we do more than just football and Fortnite. So, and then she says hi to Maddie's daddy. So,
hey.
But watching the games in the 70s were just. I'm torn. I want to go in 2 different directions. Let me start with the 70s. It's just.
I love it. That's my favorite decade.
It was a down and dirty, it was like you played in a dirt mud field. It wasn't all this pristine fields and all this other stuff. It was, it was true, just all weather element football and all, not manicured fields and stuff. I mean, you look at Soldier Field, Baltimore, look at where they had baseball fields and it gets chopped up and stuff. Nowadays they play 2 games and they change the grass out. It's like, it's really crazy. In the 70s, we had the advent of the AstroTurf.
Yes.
Which also changed games in all ways. That was bizarre.
That was not good.
No. But,
the 70s is by far, for me, and I guess it's because I was young, is the greatest decade for football. Even though it was dominated by 4 teams, really, 3 teams maybe. But man, I just loved it. It was incredible.
Yeah, and and Super Bowl Sunday really felt like an event back then, because it felt like from 12 to 6 Eastern, it was nothing but NFL pregame lead up to it, and it just felt different. Now I don't know whether it's just because the broadcasting's different or whatever. It's just so hard to watch some of all this pregame stuff they do nowadays. The reporting's different. The features and shows are a bit different. And, back then they just had simple graphics and, it was just, you just loved it.
Eagles, says Courtney.
Well, I guess she won't like me. Hey, wait a second. Let me do something real quick. This is going to be dangerous because like I told you, I'm still learning this thing with StreamYards and stuff, but let me do this that Courtney might really like here. I'm just trying to get a screen open here so I can share it, and it's almost here. Let me do this. And Woody, what's a Super Bowl? I don't know, Buzz. I'm a cowboy.
Yes, although I did love the 70s Cowboys.
Yeah,
I sent you a graphic about the 70s on our Twitter DM.
Okay,
it's the records. It's the 10 best regular season records of the 70s, and the Cowboys had the best. The Steelers were way down in the middle, yet they won 4 Super Bowls.
Well, I tell you what, I always had that thing with the Tim Tebow debate, because I always looked at, back, and which is, I'll try not to get too much on that issue, because that's always one that has bugged me over time. Because especially now with all the read option offenses that they've gone to.
Oh, good Lord. It's so ugly to look
but
at.
it's like now he couldn't do it. But who was probably the most successful quarterback in the 70s, but really statistically was garbage?
Statistically, you say not that probably Bob Greasy. He has two Super Bowls.
Bob Greasy,
and he had terrible numbers, but I don't think they're terrible. It's just that they ran the ball a lot. But
to me, who was barely 50% was Terry Bradshaw.
Bradshaw, but he had some pretty gaudy numbers when it came to the playoffs.
But that's the thing. For the playoffs, he was gaudy numbers because as a Cowboy fan, it killed me every time. That's why I was like, please don't play Pittsburgh again. And every time Dallas never beat Pittsburgh. That's why in the 90s when they got the rematch, I loved it. And let me say hi to Eric K.
Eric K, what's up, buddy?
Hey, guy. Thanks for dropping by.
To see you, man. Hey, man, good to see you. So this is, as a huge fan of NFL history in the 70s, this kind of tripped me out here. Dallas having the best record doesn't surprise me much. Miami, Oakland, none of those surprise me, but Steelers being way down at number 6, with at 91, 44, and 1. That's the percentage of 6 points. Was it 60? Was 691?
Yep.
And yet they have 4 Super Bowls rings.
And that's what I'm telling you as a Cowboys fan. That's really what frustrated the heck out of me because look at the record. Look how dominant the Cowboys were in the regular season. And I guess you could say the same thing now that they choke in the playoffs. But my frustration in the 70s is they made the Super Bowl. But every time they played the Steelers, they just could not beat them because Terry Bradshaw came out and performed on the big stage,
Well, not only that, the year after he won his first Super Bowl, Bradshaw, he got benched. He didn't start the season. He got benched by Chuck Noll. Benched him for John Gilliam and thought John Gilliam was better. He just did it to light a fire under Bradshaw's ass. But it's kind of crazy, Good God, you're there for years. You finally win a Super Bowl. It wasn't. I mean, then you just get benched. It just goes to show what kind of league we had back then. Well, what kind of coaches we had back then? The league now is nothing like it.
Right. I mean, now you're paying all these starting contracts, so quarterbacks so much money, nobody ever gets benched anymore. Or if they do, everybody's feelings get hurt. But back
not
then,
like that.
No, I mean, it was like, some of these quarterbacks probably do need to get benched. But it's interesting looking at these names. The Rams, they were there. They were in at least one of the Super Bowls.
Rams, they won one Super Bowl, didn't win it, but I mean, the Super Bowls were owned by the Steelers, the Cowboys, the Dolphins, and the Raiders, and that's it. Nobody else won another one. They were the only ones that won in that year. So basically, the whole decade was dominated by the AFC, by the way, newly merged from the AFL, NFL. And so, which is also pretty interesting when people used to talk like the AFL was inferior. Well, anyway, so yeah, it's crazy. The Rams were a top-notch team. Then they just had one problem: they were in the same league with the Vikings and the Cowboys, and and the Redskins and people like that.
That is neat to see this stat. I'm glad that you pulled this up because that's really interesting to look back. I knew the Cowboys had been dominant in the regular season. I did not realize the Steelers had been. It's hard to call a team average when they're winning 70% of their games, No,
it's still good. But
yeah, when you see that they're 6th best, you would have thought incredible. Dallas would have won one of those 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah, well, yeah, you would have thought. I thought actually that second one, Dallas almost pulled that one back, came back in it. If Jackie Smith doesn't drop the surefire touchdown, there was something like, I believe, I'm drawing a blank on the number, but the last I looked, in that Dallas Steelers rematch in Super Bowl, was it 14 or whatever? 13 or 14, whatever it was. They maybe 13. Come to think of it. Anyway, whichever one it was, there were something like 20 Hall of Famers on that field.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Both coaches and about close to 20 players. That's unreal. I mean, I have not done the legwork on it, but I would dare say there's no Super Bowl in history that had that many Hall of Famers involved with it. I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say that if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But can you imagine that many? Because I rewatched that game not so long ago.
I can't. I mean, I can't. That's just staggering to have that many.
Well, half the defense of the Steelers are in there, and half the and half the offense is on the Steelers.
Well, and Dallas has got the
Cowboys.
Yeah, the Dallas same thing on the
both coaches
defense and
right, and both coaches.
I'm just trying to look.
Insane.
Yeah, I'm trying to look real quick about those. I'm trying to see Dallas in the Super Bowl.
So Dallas,
yeah.
Even though they only won 2, they played in 4. That's pretty damn good. I mean,
yeah.
It's actually they actually played in 5 that decade. So
yeah,
Dallas got the 5 Super Bowl in that decade.
Yeah,
won 2.
I'm not finding the right site real quick to.
No, you're cool. It doesn't matter. It was just
but no, it's a great conversational piece though.
But see, toward the end of the decade of the 70s, when they went to the 16 game schedule, the game also changed in another way. You got the Mel Blount rule. That's another thing that the Steelers did. The Mel Blount rule. Are you familiar with that?
Not familiar, but explain it for the people in the chat so we all know.
Well, the Mel Blount rule around 78-ish. The NFL decided they weren't. The games weren't quite as exciting because defenses, they were lower scoring games, and the reason why was there was no rule that said you couldn't whack the crap out of a receiver as soon as he left the line of scrimmage, and you couldn't hit him while they were running. And Mel Blount he was a Hall of Fame safety / cornerback, defensive back for the Steelers. One of the most savage hitters in football history. And he used to, when you ran down that field, you were taking your life in your hands. He used to jack guys right in the face, and you got away with it. So people were terrified to go over the middle. You had to watch yourself. They were pretty much letting receivers get mauled down the field. It was tough. Receivers were, Don Shula, he didn't, and they called it the Mel Blount rule. He decided he did not like the way Mel Blount, Jack Tatum, and a bunch of the other guys, Mike Haynes, a lot of these other guys were knocking the crap out of each other. And really, of course, one guy was crippled. One actual player even died I forget the guy's name. It was Darryl Stingley got crippled, and another player I forget the guy's name earlier in the decade for the Lions died. I forget his name now, but anyway. So Don Shula was on the rules committee. He changed it, and they added that they started protecting receivers more, especially going over the middle. You can't just hit them. You can't. But it's like past 5 yards, you can't mess with them. That stuff, and that changed the game. That if you look statistically, quarterbacks started having bigger games, but more yards and stuff, and scoring was easier because. Nobody can catch anything with a guy all over their face before they even get a chance.
Yeah. And, it's kind of the total of all the rule changes. Okay, fine. You make that, but then, and you can understand some of that, but then what they moved to is protecting the receivers at all times across the field. But back in the 70s, you did not go across the middle without the fear of your head getting taken off.
No.
The problem in the purest form, football is a very violent, hard-hitting sport. You wanted to get the receivers to have alligator arms so they would come up short.
Oh yeah,
catch them. But because you make it too easy, it becomes like video game football.
It was clotheslining. They had to pretty much he couldn't clothesline people anymore. Commanders, but every time I hear the name Commanders, it makes me want to.
But you see, the next is I almost cried when they took the name away. So
it was ridiculous taking that name away. We won't get into that, but it was terrible.
But our friend Geeky is a big Raiders fan. So
hey, Raiders, there you go. Well, the Raiders, what a decade they had in the 70s. Of course, Madden and you got a couple of Super Bowls there, and you got the great Ken. I met Kenny Stabler once. He was one of the greats, and he took them way too long to put him in the Hall of Fame. But man, those 70s Raiders. You had to love them, man. They were dirty. I mean, they were criminals. They were renegades. They were everything. Man. They were. Al Davis was a nut, though.
Yeah, and amazing John Madden stayed there as long as he did. But I love looking back at the pictures, and some of the Raiders players really typified it. As you look at the old football player cards, they were missing a bunch of teeth. They look like hockey players.
I used to buy those cards. Yeah, yeah. Well, Ted Hendricks, the Mad
Yeah.
Stork, they had characters on that shit. The Raiders were so incredible. They not only had characters with names, they had plays with names. They're about 30 something, maybe 20 something plays in the NFL history that have actual names for the plays.
Mm-hmm.
And the Raiders have a couple of them. I was watching one of the Ghost to the Post when Stabler hits Casper on this big catch to the middle of the in a playoff game. I remember the Raiders played a playoff game against the Colts. It was a Christmas Day thing, I think, or Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. And I was very young. I was a young lad. This was like 76 or 7, whatever. And they were playing Burt Jones and the Colts, the great Burt Jones. And it went into 6 quarters because it was a playoff game. We left. It was a tie game. It was still in the 5th quarter. I didn't want to leave, but we left one relative's house to go to another one way, way across town. By the time we got to the other one, they were still playing the game. And Stabler was great, but you had some characters. The Sea of Hands. That's another play called the Sea of Hands. The Holy Roller. Like I said, the Ghost to the Post. And the Raiders had character, man. Old Man Willie. I love NFL films.
Oh no! And the announcers, the voices. Well, I got 2 things here I want to ask real quickly about with that. One, because I know you're into comics, a lot of collections and things like that. But how big did football collecting ever become a big thing? Cards and stuff like that with you?
I did buy football cards as a kid. I love that. Other than that, we used to have these those little helmets that you would get out of the gum machine, whatever. I would buy those.
Yep.
I even bought every time there'd be like little pencils with the football teams on them. I used to have a bunch of collection of those.
Yep.
One of the things I had 2 brothers, and I was the middle kid. We used to get football stuff for Christmas, and I mean whole football uniforms. I played little league football, of course, and I loved it. But we would get we'd get Saints helmets, Saints stuff, and we got Dallas stuff too. We got because those were the big sellers. We used to have a full. We would go out in the backyard, in the muddy backyard. My mom got so mad at us. All 3 of us dressed in our full football uniforms, playing football outside. Just the 3 of us.
Absolutely.
And other friends on the right. Yeah, it was huge back then.
Well, that's I was curious about that, and also about announcers. What have you thought about the transition of announcers over the years? Because to me, the greatest announcers were in the 70s. The last 10, 15 years, the announcers quality has gone downhill.
Oh God! Yeah.
I mean, you don't. I don't care what gender they are. I just don't care anything about those arguments. The thing is, just probably the last great one is still here with Al Michaels, but
yeah,
I was not a Joe Buck fan, personally.
Yeah, me either.
But before Michaels, I mean, I love Dandy Don, even though he's more of a color guy with it.
He's a color guy.
You could, whether it's college or pro, the Keith Jacksons, the Dick Enberg.
Keith Jackson.
What's that?
Keith Jackson. I'm sorry.
You got me there, Claudia. I was like, what happened?
Remember that?
Yeah.
He used to say that. Whoa, Nelly.
Oh, Nelly. Yeah, I tell you. But, they have passion for the game. They don't even have an interest in it, but they felt like they were interested, like there was some emotion involved with it. But you got Dick Enberg showed up everywhere. NFL, college, bowl games, Super Bowl. It's like the man did everything. What are some of your favorite announcers looking back?
Keith Jackson's he did the first year of Monday Night Football. Then he went back to doing college forever after that. But he was the first season.
I did not know that.
It was a Chris Jackson. Then later, then they came on. They brought in Don Meredith and Dandy Don and Howard. I love the Monday Night Football crew, the original one, the best. Dandy Don, Frank Gifford. And Howard Cosell. What a great group of guys that team was. I loved them. And Madden and Summerall, of course, kind of the standard for Sundays. Although Dick Enberg, oh my, who would say that every time. That was his trademark. Oh my.
Yep.
Yeah, Buck. I wasn't the biggest on Buck and Aikman. I mean, they're not. Al Michaels. You can't go wrong with Al Michaels. He was really great, especially when he was in that booth with Deerdorf and him and Deerdorf were actually. I like Deerdorf. I thought they was pretty good together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so whether it was him or whether it was him in Madden or whether it was him even in Collinsworth, I guess. I'm not really big on him, but
Florida Gator right there.
No, that's true. Florida Gators.
Collinsworth is a quarterback originally in college.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was there, but then I guess because of his size, they moved him out to a wide receiver. Of course, they didn't throw the ball that often, but he probably long range career, great career move for him though.
Oh yeah. So, but some of the, as far as the color guys, those are Kurt Gowdy.
Mm-hmm.
Remember him?
Yep. Kurt Gowdy. Yep.
But yeah, there were a few really good ones. And then of course, I think most people will probably tell you that their favorites are local guys, like they're wherever in their town that they aren't really nationally known. Like in New Orleans, we had a guy named Jim Henderson that was the best Saints caller ever, and he did it for maybe almost 30 years or more. I don't know, something like that. He just retired a good few years ago, but we loved him. He was creative. He was intelligent. He was really good. And we miss him bad. I mean, even though I don't listen anymore, but it was on the radio. He was the radio guy back when my satellite made it impossible to be able to turn down the TV and listen to the radio broadcast because the satellite was a lot of seconds after it.
Oh gosh, yeah.
But in those years though, when I was easy to do that, I would always turn the TV guy off and listen to the local radio broadcast.
Absolutely, I did that with a lot of college sports.
Oh yeah, and it's funny. Because of NFL Films, I'm familiar with guys like Myron Cope out of Pittsburgh, even though he was local and we never got to hear him. But I know of him because of that. The Philadelphia Eagles guy. Oh, what was that guy? Myron. Byron. No, damn, I'm forgetting his name now. But he had a very distinctive voice. Because Courtney's a big Eagles fan. And I remember that. I can't remember his name, Courtney, but the Eagles used to have a guy that I think he's still there, maybe. And it's been there for 30-something years. So the local guys are the ones that really most fans latch on to rather than the national ones, but there are exceptions, of course.
Well, looking back over these, because you and I go back to the 70s and really the 80s. And to me, the early 90s, a lot of with the Cowboys fans back then. But, they've added more games to this regular season. They've expanded the playoffs. There's more teams in the league. Do you think it's hurt the quality? I mean, we forget the rule changes. We know about the rule changes and we agree with that. But do you think that having so many more games, so many more teams may as work to hurt the game, or is when you get to everything on the field?
I think 32 is a decent number. I don't think you need many more than that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if they added one more or two more. I don't think it would kill it that much. I don't think that's that big of a problem. There are other problems or some of the other things you mentioned, but that and even adding a game, you know what? Boo-hoo, guys! They play 100-something games in baseball and 80-something games in basketball. Adding you guys playing 17, and the reason why I don't mind it much is because preseason is such a sham. They should shave stuff off of that anyway. You realize in the 70s they played 6 preseason games. That was really bad.
Wow.
4 is annoying too, because you know what? If you're a season ticket holder, and I used to be before I couldn't afford it anymore, you get charged the same for a preseason game as you did a regular season game.
Absolutely.
It's a sham. It's a disgrace.
It really is. When I had Jaguar season tickets, I got in at the ground level expansion year, and I managed to get upper deck $15 a game. Now I doubt that those people. I don't doubt that I'd have been able to keep that price this long, so I'm sure it's higher. But that was good for me, and I at that point I didn't quite mind paying for preseason games. But if your average ticket starts at 25 and it goes up to 40 just for just nosebleed seats. Exactly. Why are you going to pay for glorified exhibition games?
And a lot of people don't go.
Yeah,
a lot of people don't go, but they're still paying for it. Did you say, look, I got to pay for it maybe, but I don't have to like it, and I don't really want to go. It's a because yes, I've already shelled out for the ticket full price. I'm not going to go spend all that extra money going to that it costs to drive down there, to park, eat, hang out, all that kind of crap for two useless games.
Yeah.
Two meaningless, garbagey games that mean nothing. They're scrimmages. No, I just sit. That's why I don't want. Not a lot. Some people still do go to those. Don't get me wrong, but nowhere near even half of them really do.
Well, it can be a fun night out if you just want some football and stuff, but you got to also know you're going in. You're not getting the starters for very much.
No, you're not getting a real game either. Even when you do get the starters, so it's garbage. It's a joke. So add regular game. So adding in a regular game doesn't bother me if I were still.
And with year-round training, the year-round training nowadays, I don't think they need so many preseason games anymore. No. They know quickly which players they want to keep, and they don't. And
why do they need any preseason games? I've always said you could go in cold. I mean, look, just figure it out in the season. Add, make it an 18 games or longer, whatever game schedule, and just start out with no preseason stuff. Go do normal scrimmages against not even against other teams.
Mm-hmm.
I would argue they don't need a preseason game.
I agree with you. I mean, especially if you want to maximize your profits and stuff, go regular season games.
Yep. I mean, I'm sorry. Coaches say, "Well, we need this. We need it." No, hey, look.
No, you don't. It's not college.
Cold.
Even college doesn't do that.
College doesn't do it.
Yeah, you go right into the regular season. You got to be ready.
Yep.
Exactly.
It's a joke.
And like I said, they know who they're going to keep. There might be a few players on the end of the roster, but generally those players aren't going to.
You can still put the cutting point after the season starts. But here's another thing. You know what? Mm-hmm. How many tragic season losses happened in a nothing preseason game? How many times? Yeah. Injuries that you know what? If that happens in a regular season game, so be it. That's football.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But when it happens in a preseason game, and of course, it opened the way for Warner. It's such a waste. Yeah. When your season is like I said, when the bullets are flying for real, and you get knocked out, that's football. When it happens in a nothing, worthless game like a preseason scrimmage, that's ridiculous.
And it's exactly right. And see, I think the league is being hypocritical with a lot of that because. I had the misfortune. I nearly lost my dinner last year because I was at our favorite local Mexican restaurant and they had the Pro Bowl on. It was nothing. I think they weren't even touching each other. It was like, why are you guys even
playing? The Pro Bowl's garbage. Oh,
I mean, it used to be like even the 70s, 80s, they would play football. I mean, they kind of toned it down and they do to try to, but what they've done is it's like, why bother? If you're going to do flag football, it's not a game. Just do away with it completely. And that's another thing too. They get all these side events like these skills competitions. What happens to these guys get hurt in the skills competitions?
It's just a couple
years ago.
That's true. It happened, by the way. It happened.
Robert Edwards, University of Georgia running back.
That's right.
I can't remember which team he was with. It was
Patriots.
Sand Beach Volleyball. Blew his knee out and was never the same.
I think it was the Patriots.
It might have been. But he blew his knee out. Was never the same after that. So if you're gonna take this look at the postseason like the Pro Bowl game and make it a joke where whatever, then why even risk the players at the preseason game?
Drew Brees got hit pretty hard in a Pro Bowl one time by that idiot Terrell Suggs. And that pissed me off, man. But do you remember? Are you old enough to remember that they used to have the college all-stars games where college all-stars would play a pro team in an exhibition?
No, I did not. Now I will say this. I've always heard people want to say like some of the great number one Alabama teams could beat the worst pro team, which I don't agree with.
That's not true.
Yeah, but tell us about that. Tell us about that.
Oh well, it's just sketchy in my memory because they stopped doing it in the 60s and 70s. But there was a time they still had the Pro Bowl for the NFL and stuff. But there was a thing called a college all-stars game where the college all-stars, instead of just playing each other like they do in regular college now, they would actually play like the Colts or somebody. They would play an NFL team in an exhibition. They did that. I can't remember when they stopped doing it, but I remember that they did it.
There's just so much difference. If you look at these guys physically, I mean, they're big enough in college, but they're even bigger in the NFL.
Right.
And
the worst NFL team would wipe the floor with the best college team.
Yeah.
Especially in the old days. Right now, it might be a little bit different, but yeah, they'd still whoop them. In the, excuse me. Right now, it wouldn't be any contest. The pro team would destroy them. In the old days, if you take the worst Bucks team, the Tampa Bay Bucks, when they were at their lowest and worst, against like one of Bear Bryant's Alabama Crimson Tide team, they might hang with them. I don't know, but now the way things are, if you took the lousiest college team, the best college team, and you had a mishmash of all the let's say take the worst. Yeah, there we go. Let's take whoever's the best team this year, last year, whatever, in recent years, and put them up against the worst teams. Who's worse right now? Houston.
The Texans are 2-12-1.
Okay, they're probably the worst team.
They're probably the worst. Yeah, 2-12.
By record, they certainly are. So take them. Or take the 08 Lions of who went 0-16 or whatever. Now they actually were competitive. Just take the really garbage team of the recent year, and the chances are that Alabama team or whoever that really good team was wouldn't stand much of a chance. They would get whacked out pretty good.
Right, exactly, and I agree with that. So a lot of debate on that one though over the years. That's what's so funny with it. But
people like to say it as a joke, like, "Well, our high school team can beat them." Yeah, okay, sure, but you can say it as a joke. But I mean, they're bad because we know what you mean. They're really bad. But
I will tell you though, sometimes though, it's you especially some of these bad Jaguar teams and some of these other bad teams that there are. You wonder. It's easy to fall into. But hey. Well, let's transition into kind of what's going on now. We'll look at the standings and stuff a bit, but let me come in with another meme. I know Courtney will like this. Here. I had a very good friend share this one with me a while back.
Hey, Cowgirls fans, there you go. Yeah. How about them Cowboys?
It's a logo. It's not a logo. It's a rating.
That's fantastic. That is. I want to steal it. I got a buddy of mine's a Cowboys fan that would laugh. And of course, he would go, "Yeah, what about this year?" I said, "It ain't the playoffs yet, but we'll get to that."
Well, exactly. Oh, Clobby, there are plenty of memes about the Cowboys' performances in the playoffs, whether it's Tony Romo or Dak Prescott.
I got a lot to say about that.
What's that?
Got a lot to say about the Cowboys.
Okay, well, let's get to it. Let's get to it. Let me shut this one down. Well, with that, let me see. Let's go ahead. We'll start on it. Well, and I had the AFC kind of, but let's start with the National Football Conference.
Let's start. Either one's good, man.
We'll start with the National. Unfortunately, you'll see a little bit of the Denver Broncos, but courtesy of our friends at ESPN, here's the standings as we go into Week 17. Or is it it's Week 16? I get confused since they've added the bye week and added another game.
Yeah.
So, but hey,
I believe it's 17, 16, whatever. Anyway, go ahead.
So for Courtney, who's here also, we'll start
Eagles,
with
Courtney.
NFC East. We got the Eagles at 13-2, the Cowboys 12-4. We'll talk about playoff scenarios in a moment, but you can see both are playoff eligible. The Giants are still in. The Commanders are still in, barely. We'll look at the playoff situations in just a moment. By the way, like I said, that rating meme is courtesy of a good friend of the channel, so I will definitely make sure you have that. They love to hit me with cowboy memes all the time, so. But it's hard to ignore with the recent playoff history. But anyway,
gotcha.
But speaking of Cowboys, the one crushing moment at all those Super Bowl losses to Pittsburgh were heartbreaking, and they really, really were. But the one loss that held with me for 30, it was probably ended up about 15 years. It seems like forever back then, was the catch at San Francisco.
Oh, that was
Montana to Clark.
You're talking 40 years plus.
Yeah, and it was like, oh my gosh, it was like, because the Cowboys went off the deep end after that, and it was just, it just seemed to end them for quite a long time. But
they never should have gotten that situation in that game. But because they had no business winning that game. The 49ers turned the ball over 5 times in that damn game. And then, but that last, run down that field, it was a great drive for them. Thing is, it wasn't over. Interestingly enough, they had a shot to win. The Cowboys came back. People forget that, how the game ended. When the Cowboys got close downfield, but then I think Danny White threw a pick or whatever. But one of the interesting thing is, do you know that that game almost ended illegally because they were, when they were counting up the last seconds, Montana and the 49ers walked off the field without snapping it and killing the ball. And they just walked off, and the clock just ran out. And that was actually should have been a touchback. In fact, should have been a safety.
Yeah.
And they didn't call it.
Wow. I never knew that because I was pretty much bummed out at that point. But yeah. I'm glad I didn't know that back then as a kid.
Yeah, it hurts when you think about that. So I didn't mean to rub it in there.
I know.
So anyway.
So we look at the NFC East. We got everybody's actually at least 500 and above. And so it's actually a good year for the NFC East because many years they're down and like all having losing records. But you see Philadelphia and Dallas are playoff eligible. Right. And the NFC North, we have the Vikings at the lead. It's pretty much they've won the division already. I think there's
they have
Lions and Packers are still playoff eligible, and we'll look at those scenarios in a moment. I'm really surprising with the Vikings though at 12-3 because I know the Cowboys handled them really, really well, but then again the Cowboys lost to the Jaguars, so go figure. You know,
Vikings are loopy.
Yep.
And the Cowboys won last night, so.
Yeah, I saw that game. That was kind of cool to watch them pull that game out. Now, here's an area of interest to you, Clobby. I know as an NFC South, your team, still, the Saints, they're still mathematically alive.
Right.
I think basically they have to win out and Tampa Bay has to lose out. We'll look at the scenario again, but, what a dreadful division.
Horrible division. What has to happen? Okay, let's see. How many games are left? 2, right? So at least the Falcons are dead, and I love that.
Yeah, I know Saints fans love that.
In my old days, yeah. So, Aints have to win out. All they have to do. Well, not all. They have to run the table, and then they have to hope Tampa loses twice.
Right. I believe, and we'll look, and I've got the article up here with that. We can look at that
because I think Tampa swept them.
Yeah, let's see.
So, if Tampa loses, the Saints' only chance is to get to 8 wins, and Tampa has to lose twice. Hey, small time Republic.
Hey, welcome.
Fan. Are you a Houdat? I used to be a Houdat. I became for 50 years. I was a Houdat.
Love having Small Time Republic here, Clobby. He's
good to see you.
A lot of the college football streams. So now we're talking some pro football.
Yeah.
Let me share this in here, Clobby. Let me see if I can blow it up a little bit. Thank y'all for y'all's patience while I'm working technology.
There you go. What you got?
One thing I've learned, Clobby.
Oh, I see. Yes.
Is that, it's always so easy on the other side, but when you get behind here and have to drive the engine, it's like
everyone thinks it's easy when they're watching.
And you got all the pressure on you. So looks like the Saints here need to win out while the Buccaneers lose out. So basically,
that's the only shot they've got now because they're going to be playing I think their last game will be the Panthers. But a small time Republic. I'm a Saints fanatic. Freak beyond belief for 50 years, just the past 2 years because of some things that have happened with the NFL. Long story. I've kind of gotten jaded with the NFL, but, I'll always have my love of NFL history and stuff. So I'm still a Saints fan at heart, wearing my New Orleans Saints Super Bowl champion shirt right now as we speak. So,
well, Clobby, it's the same way with me. A few years ago, I really swore off all of it with certain events and things that happen. But, it's just I like, I have to ask myself a question. The missus always wants me to get a hobby. It's like quit bugging her, get a hobby. And football, whether it's college, I've always liked college more because of the bands and all the side stuff as we talked about before. But even the pro, I just like, especially when it gets to the playoff season, and it makes for fun discussions and things like that. And I kind of just tell myself I can't always be against something. I gotta at least like something or enjoy it as much as I can. There's things that I just can't even get. I'm not artistic. I'm not all that stuff. So and you can find enough people that come around and talk about stuff like that and have conversations like this. We spent a lot of time talking about the old stuff, what we did like of the history. And going forward, we keep talking about what we don't like of the new stuff and call it crap. But you know what we need to do, Clobby? We need to get the NFL version of the Claboni, though.
I'll get with Hungry Boy on that.
Yeah, because you remember the Patriots Miami game? I don't remember what year, the snow game, where they took the little tractor out on the field and cleared.
Yep, 83 or 84. It was
I don't know if it was a lawnmower or whatever it was. Get one of those.
It was in Boston, New England game.
Absolutely.
The snowplow game where a convict on furlough, let out on the furlough program, went out and ran that Claboni thingy or whatever you want to call it on that.
Yep. That was
so.
Yeah, small time says. Yeah, and the small time says the way the league follows whatever the current call is. Yeah, and I think unfortunately it's the way of business in whether what league you look at the NHL, Major League Baseball, they're all doing stuff like that now. And I tell you what, though, I've not, unlike the NFL, I have completely lost the love of baseball because of one thing that they've done. Their billboards and advertisements all in those stadiums now. That hurts my heart for the tradition of baseball. That stuff was not seen like that, at least growing up and things like that. It just, I understand the business.
I hear you there.
Salaries, but it, like the last time I saw Wrigley Field, it just broke my heart seeing it's bad enough they play at night, but then they got the big Budweiser signs and stuff, and it just. Anyway, that's another sidetrack, but sorry about that. But
no, I hear you there, dude.
Yeah.
As far as the South goes, I got to tell you. So basically, your South picture is Tampa has to win out to get in to win the division. Obviously, Carolina has to win out.
Yep.
And the Saints have to win out, but the Panthers and Saints need for the Bucks.
Yep. And I'll bring back that article up in just a second. We'll look at the Panthers when we get done with this. We'll look at the NFC picture for sure here with this. And in the West, the Giants have clinched the division. Saints are not eliminated yet, but we'll look at all the playoff possibilities. But see, these are the division clinchers. It looks like none have clinched like conference buys yet.
49ers have clinched.
See the
the division. We don't have seeding yet though.
They clinched the division.
Would be, clinched wild card.
Yep. Clinched the division. So I think it remains to be what the top two seeds are and how it plays out. So with that, let's look over here at the playoff possibilities. So see, I'm getting the hang of this stuff.
Yeah, it takes a while. There you go.
Is this large enough for you, or do I need to?
Yeah, we're good. I can see it.
Okay.
Eagles apparently need. Well, there you go. Go for it. One win, clinching.
Basically, they just win. If they win one game, they're
the one seed.
Which means the Cowboys in the fifth spot. Currently they have to win out, and the Eagles have to lose out for the Cowboys to win the NFC East. The Vikings have clinched the North, but need to win out and have the Eagles lose to get a first round bye. The 49ers, they say they're playing the best football right now, but it looks like probably it's between the Eagles and Vikings for the bye in the first top two seeds. I guess it's top three seeds that had the bye. It's been a while since I looked at it. So
and the bad news is the Saints are going to be at Philly, so the Eagles will probably beat them and knock them out. This week, and they will win, and the Eagles will clinch their. Because I don't see them going to them losing in Philly. I don't see the Eagles getting beat by the Saints in Philly.
Now, one thing that it does say is that if the Panthers went out, so I take it the Panthers have to play the Bucks at some point. If they went out, they win the NFC South, because then you got the Buccaneers in the fourth position, which if at the end of the day, the Buccaneers at 7-8 would host a playoff game with the Cowboys, a division win. Well, no, not a division winner, but with a better record on the road in that first weekend wildcard game. Wait a second. Hold on. I misspoke right there. I apologize. No, I'm old information. It looks like the Buccaneers and the Commanders. Okay. And the Cowboys.
Panthers play the Bucks tomorrow.
Yep.
I mean, Sunday.
I misread this again because I read an article a while back that said the Cowboys would be facing the Buccaneers if the playoffs ended then. But no, it'd be 4-7 Buccaneers, Commanders, or whoever is in that spot. And the Cowboys. Hey, me and Mark D was seeing. Hey, we got another battle going soon.
There There you go.
Yeah, there you go. And with outside Seattle, it gets into who else can fit up in here. Seattle and the Lions both have to win. Packers may be a little too late, but then again, the Panthers, if they win out, they win the NFC South, and the Buccaneers need a lot of help. So, I mean, the Saints need a lot of help. So it's
the Saints. They don't have much of a shot. They got to go win in Philly.
Yeah, but you know what? With Philly, though, I mean, sometimes these teams may fall flat in the last week or not. So, but because I think I've heard some problems with Hurts' health, but and then
he didn't play last week.
Yeah,
did he?
And I don't think so. And then you also have questions of I'll go ahead and pull this down now. But those are the situations. Because here's another issue that you run into the NFL, and it's happened here locally. But the decision with the teams, especially if they've won conferences or won divisions and they have things settled, do they pull their starters? What about the competitive balance of playing games like this, where other teams are affected by coaching decisions about resting your players or protecting them from injury?
Yeah. You look at your team first, though. You pull them if you can.
So how do you fall on that? Because I can't remember a lot of the 70s and 80s from that regard, but is this a new trend that's happened in recent years about resting these starters, or is it kind of something that's always been factored in? And what do you think about that?
I think it's been a long time. It's been around pretty much forever, though some coaches have been hard-nosed about it, but I think you're crazy if you don't, like, for example, if you're the Eagles and they beat the Saints this week, you're nuts if you don't rest your people the next week. Now, teams have been done that forever, and there are cases to be made like, yeah, but if you do that, then there's all these you got 3 weeks before they get back into another game. They're going to be off their game a little bit, but it's better than getting them hurt, and it's better than getting them hurt. It's in a meaningless game.
Yeah, but I kind of fall. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go.
I'm mixed with it. I fall in the camp of, especially if your team is going to have that first week bye, that you need to play your starters at least some of the game to keep, so they don't have 2 weeks off and get rusty. Because they don't practice like they used to with the hard drills during the week and stuff like that anymore. And I'm concerned about rust coming out when you really have an important game on the line. You're going to be playing somebody that played the week before, didn't have a break in routine.
Some do that. It's been done. I remember, I never forget, it was Jim Schwartz, I guess it was, the coach of the Colts, when we went to the, when in 2009 when the Saints went to the Super Bowl, the Colts were taking a serious run at being undefeated. Mm-hmm. And once they got the thing clinched up, they had a couple of weeks there. Mm-hmm. And Jim Schwartz was a relatively new coach. We'd already blown it by losing a stupid, I guess, Thursday night or whatever. We were undefeated, then blew it by losing some stupid game to the Cowboys in the Dome. So we were done. Mm-hmm. And we ended up, so there was no point in chasing. But then when we clinched, we sat our guys for that last game, whatever the Saints did. They were saying, look, you got 2 games, sit Peyton Manning, put Curtis Painter in there, don't forget about them. And people were all over Schwartz, but you can be undefeated. You can be undefeated. And he said, yeah, but what if we go undefeated and then our guys are so beat up they can't win in the playoffs? He made the decision and he got booed for it. Mm-hmm. And Manning did not like it. He decided to pull Peyton Manning and pull his starters for the most part, most of them anyway. And and he got to the Super Bowl. Now I'm glad we beat him. Well, and what happens if you don't get to and you do that and you don't get to the Super Bowl? So I certainly understand it. I think you're talking a coach whose job is on the line, a bunch of other coaches and general managers whose job is on the line, who it's all well and good if you get that undefeated, but we've seen, aside from the 72 Dolphins, we've seen the 18-1 Patriots. Mm-hmm. Yeah, who did go undefeated. They did manage to go undefeated. and they went through the playoffs. And when they got to the game against New York, I contend they were so beat up. If you watch that game against the Giants, they couldn't handle the Giants' defensive line in that game at all. Mm-hmm. And yet they were a powerhouse throughout the season. And the Lions and the Giants had played them tough earlier. I think they were flat exhausted.
It's a long season. I mean, you guys at that point you had 16 regular season games. Add 3 or 4 more in there. Yeah,
I'm just saying they got that. What do you think that team would have rather been that year? Lost 1 game or maybe or 2, and yet had not gotten beaten by Eli Manning of all people in that Super Bowl. What do you think Tom Brady would have preferred?
Yeah, the Super Bowl, the championship, another ring. Yeah. Absolutely.
I think I err on caution. I think personally, if I'm that coach, if I got them all fixed up, if I got it all, got the first seed, I'll take my chances with rust.
Right.
I think they're not going to have that problem with the Eagles because their quarterback's already hurt. That's another long sermon I have about running quarterbacks. But go ahead.
Right. Exactly. Because eventually it takes a toll on your body. I mean, you even look at a pocket passer like Peyton Manning, what happened to him as a result of hits over the years. I like what you said about his. I'd never liked Peyton Manning because I'm a Gator. He was Tennessee. Mm-hmm. We always claimed 4-0 over them his years. Yeah. So, but that drive. The one thing you cannot doubt about Peyton Manning is that drive to play and compete. I want a quarterback that wants to yell at the coach for pulling him out for a game. I don't care. Every game's important. To a player that wants to compete and exert some effort. You're as an athlete too, and you want to play. You don't want to sit on the bench. You want to be out there. You don't, no matter who you're playing. It's one thing if you run up a score, then okay, fine, put me on the bench a bit. But that's my job out there. I want to be on the field doing my job.
I sat in that dome one year when we were really terrible and watched Peyton Manning rig up 62 points on us.
Yep,
and they could have got 6. They could have got like 10 or 15 more.
Yeah,
if Tony Dungy wasn't a nice guy, they could have rung the Saints up could have racked them for it was actually 50 something. He could have easily whacked us for 60 that night. But yeah, just saying.
Speaking of that, that's kind of how Dan Marino's last game was here.
I know 95,000 to nothing.
I was like, dude, it was like a video game. I'm sitting there watching Fred Taylor take a flat pass and just run on touchdown field. And it was just
what a way to end the season.
It was a sad way to end a career too. They limped into the playoffs. You could tell he couldn't throw the football. Let me stop real quick. I want to say we got 10 people watching. Hey, thank you everybody that's here. Love you lurkers. I'm sure there's a few of you lurkers. Thank you for being here. Like the videos, subscribe to the channel when you can. Please, if you're out there. Indeed. And if you're still here and you still can type, throw in some questions if you have questions related to NFL or even football and things like that. I've shared a couple of memes with Clobby already. The anti-Cowboys, like there's a Super Bowl, and then I'll have to share with Clobby of the Dallas Star is there's only one. It's not a logo, it's a rating. So I love that one. That's funny. But thank you everybody being here, and love having you here. And Clobby, those are interesting stories too, and being there at some of those events, really watching games, especially in person. Like Dan Marino's last game was an honor to be able to see.
Oh God, yeah.
Although it was really tragic.
Yeah.
I did see his last touchdown pass because I think it ended up like 62-7, or it was just. I mean, the starters were pulled at halftime. That should not happen in an NFL playoff game,
I got to see our great Dome Patrol defense back in the 90s hold Barry Sanders to under 20 yards one time.
Wow.
That's those in a dome. That's no small thing.
No, I tell you.
Who's your favorite NFL coach of all time? Asks you.
Well, you said Barry Sanders. Let me say something real quick. That's why I love all the football and pro and college, and how I got a foot in both worlds, because I saw Barry Sanders play in a college bowl game here with Oklahoma State against Florida State.
My goodness,
what a running back! And now to see the career he had at the NFL,
greatness, yeah.
But yes, Clobby, what is your favorite NFL coach of all time? You know who mine is going to be.
I bet I know. I don't know, but I don't know. But I'll take a stab at it. But first, I'll say that I'm gonna have to go traditional. I know it's a cliche because I love them all, but I'm gonna go Lombardi. I mean, Lombardi, just everything about his philosophy, the way he handled stuff, the way I love Tom Landry and I love Don Shula, and I respect Chuck Noll, although he was a jerkwad. But I'm going to go Lombardi just because of he embodies everything that an NFL coach. So this is cliched, an easy answer, but I'll take it.
Okay.
So yours, I have no idea whose yours is. Oh wait, no, I know. I do know.
Okay.
Should I guess?
Yeah, go ahead and guess.
Jimmy Johnson.
Oh no!
Oh wow!
No, absolutely
You're a Cowboys
not.
fan.
I thought he was. I didn't mind renting him for a few years from the University of Miami Criminals down there. We got a few championships. No, the Master of Grace in class in the 1970s who wore a freaking suit and wore his hat. Tom Landry,
the man with the funny hat. Tom Landry. Well, that's a great choice. I hated what Jerry Jones did to him.
That made it very hard to remain a Cowboys fan. That actually probably for me that was a harder thing than the politics a couple years ago, because that was like something you just and granted, I do think there are times coaches stay beyond their means. I've seen it a lot in college. They stay on their legacy, but either games pass them by or just it's time. And I do think Tom had hit that point where, because they were not performing, they were definitely on a downhill slope in the late 80s. But the way that it was done was just classless and unwarranted. And I mean, the whole organization, but it really was. But then again, think of any modern business any day, look at what happened with, things that we've seen lately is a new owner comes in. What's the first thing they do? Cleaning the house. They get their people in and things like that. So maybe it was a combination of something like that with what had to be, but it's still just the way it was done just felt like you needed a shower after it. It just was so it was unworthy for a man that had spent so much of a career, had coached so long, had been a representative in class of the National Football League, and to just be dumped like that.
I'll tell you this, dude. It got them 3 championships, but that's been 30-something years ago. As long as Jerry Jones is running that outfit, they will never, in my opinion, never win another championship. That's my belief. I think he's like Al Davis in that respect. Al Davis had a lot of success. He was a good dude. Then he became the meddler. Well, he had the medal and everything. So
your guess at my favorite coach was Jimmy Johnson. He couldn't even.
Only because I thought you were a Cowboys fan.
Yeah, but the thing is, he couldn't even stand Jimmy Johnson there because it was like
somebody else. Yeah, Jimmy Johnson. Yeah.
So and then he brought Barry Switzer in, and that was like a short time. You bought one championship.
That was still Johnson's team, though.
Absolutely, it was. We all know that.
Although Johnson didn't do anything in Miami. Thing is, Johnson benefited from the Herschel Walker trade. Yeah. You don't take away from the job Johnson did, but the fact is that ridiculous Herschel Walker trade, any coach would have been successful behind that. How many Pro Bowl players and a couple of Hall of Famers and stuff they ended up getting. And of course, the smartest thing, he did do one really smart thing, Johnson. He kept he went for Troy Aikman over Steve Walsh, and the Saints ended up with Steve Walsh. And because everyone thought he should get Steve Walsh because he had a better career in college than Aikman.
And I will tell you, I was on the wrong side of that looking at it. I like Steve Walsh better, but looking back, I was like, hey, they made the right decision on that one. So,
some guys just aren't ready for the pros. Steve Walsh is a nice guy. He met him one time. Nice guy, but no, sir. He was just not the answer. And, we knew it. We had to put up with him because of a dispute with Bobby Hebert sat out.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah.
I'm trying to look back at the Herschel Walker trade real quick because
it's unbelievable how many players the Cowboys got out of that.
Yeah, it was
unreal.
I think 7 or 8 players, but the names. That's what I'm trying to find out is what players.
I'm gonna look for it.
I'm trying to look right now. Jesse Solomon, David Howard, Isaac Holt, Alex Stewart, and then they got a lot of draft picks after that. I think that's where they really built it.
Yeah, it's not the trades so much as the draft picks.
The draft
who
picks
they picked later.
Yeah.
So it was a few.
Oh, here, right here, Clobby. Here, Clobby. Let me move this over. Hold on. I'm experimenting, folks. It could be dangerous. I was on the wrong thing. Give me a second.
The players they got out of the draft for that pick.
Exactly. Trying to get there real quick.
Vikings were was it they called it? I think a lot of the league were calling that the Lawrence Welk trade because he traded a 1, a 2, and a 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Vikings were probably the second biggest bunch of chumps of a trade in history of NFL. The Saints are still guilty of the first one when the Ricky Williams thing.
Yeah. It misses. If you're out there, can you see if I don't
think
me
to look for it?
Something happened. No, I have a problem on the Twitch side. Something happened. I'm only on the YouTube side right now, so it looks like. But let me bring this up real quickly here. Let me try to. Yeah, here we go. Let me increase this a little bit.
All right.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Go down here.
Dallas is subsequent.
Yeah.
Partial list.
Look at the first one right off the bat.
Yep.
Memphis first round pick in 1990.
Emmitt Smith.
There you go. Then they used second pick that to get the San Francisco's third pick. They dealt the move. Oh, they use all the picks to get to 17th to get Emmitt Smith. So, but that's draft collateral, That's draft collateral for you. And if you have amassed those picks, you can do things like that. Yeah, let me see. Yeah.
Use part of the deal.
Yeah.
Get number 1 overall pick to 91. That got him Russell Maryland, Pro Bowler.
Yep. That was huge. And even though Alonzo Highsmith, Emmitt was the main back, Alonzo Highsmith was a darn good backup running back to have in there. Provided them depth and, other things that they needed.
Yeah, but the Oilers took him. So.
Okay. Sorry, I misread that then. But Alonzo Highsmith did end up with Alonzo Highsmith did end up with the Cowboys.
Really? I remember moving with the Oilers.
But the way it's written is weird in here because I know that Alonzo Highsmith ended up with Cowboys because of the Tecmo Bowl video game.
Well, maybe so later, but he was with the Oilers.
So yeah,
anyway.
Yeah, the 92. But look at the first round pick of 92. I mean, there's more moving around and stuff. But look, they selected Kevin Smith and Darren Woodson.
Yeah, Pro Bowlers.
There's your defense right there too.
Pro Bowlers. Yep.
Clayton Holmes was not bad either in 92.
He was good. But they've got some crazy good ones.
Absolutely. And then you look at the people that Minnesota picked. Not the same. The
only good player there is Jake Reed.
Yep.
He was pretty good.
Yeah, it was not the same. This was definitely, if you go down into NFL history.
That championship don't happen. That was just it's unreal. The Herschel Walker trade.
Absolutely, what it did. Give me 1 second, Clobby. Let's talk about. I need to check something over on my Twitch side real quick.
Okay.
I don't know what's going on.
I remember Gene Stallings. He was a pretty good coach. He was a good coach he was a good college coach. He didn't last too long in the pros, but he was a good Alabama coach. I think he coached the Cardinals in the pros for a while.
Mm-hmm.
You want something? You're about to meet Coach Landry, so please be respectful. The Coach Landry.
Hey.
The man with the funny hat.
Guess what, Clobby?
I
didn't know I had a problem over on Twitch, but I think I fixed it.
Yeah.
Good. I think our audience been going through it as a video. So, hey, you're here on a great night. Not only celebrating hitting 100 subs, but I'm actually troubleshooting on the fly.
Nice. Well, that's what you do, man.
And I will say that, Gene Stallings, I did, it was easy to hate him as a Gator fan, but
he was
won,
good.
but class. That's something about class,
How
And for
tough a
him
job is that
set
to have to come over and take over from Bear Bryant?
Yeah, talk about pressure. That's not easy to have to
Lord.
fill those shoes. And then his son John Mark walks up and says, "Hey Tom, how's it going?" Oh, and Stallings told that story recently. Well,
okay.
So, that Stallings is a guy that he retired a long time ago, but it's, good to still see him around because there were other.
He wasn't made up for the pros though.
What? Oh, well, there are other coaches that did not.
There were a lot of college coaches that didn't work for the pros.
Well, we know Steve Spurrier didn't. We know Urban Meyer didn't even. Oscar Meyer
Nick
didn't even
Saban
last the season. Saban. At least Saban recognized he needed to get back to college, and he picked a good spot to go back to.
Mm-hmm.
That's something. So, well, that has been fun, and we took a nice little detour off into some really, really cool stuff. Why don't we go ahead and get through the AFC though, while we have some time?
Yes, let's go back. Sure.
Absolutely. So we're going to thank you everybody that's here. We still got 10. Thank y'all for being here. Like, subscribe, and keep throwing questions out and comments like Small Time is doing tonight, and we'll try to work them in the best we can. Looking at the AFC, the other side, Buffalo's clinched the division. We can see that there's still some playoff possibilities remaining between Miami, New England, and the Jets. We'll look at that in just a minute. I'll have the details on that. The AFC North, the Bengals and the Ravens have clinched playoff berths. The Steelers are not eliminated yet. One of the probably disappointing teams this year is Cleveland Browns, considering they were on such a roll last year. And then I still don't understand the whole Baker Mayfield situation, why he got run off and they brought the guy.
I know why. Because Baker Mayfield is a child. Yeah. Okay, he does not have the mental stability to be a quarterback in this league. He acts like a baby.
Yeah.
He's not matured. He turned me off when I saw him walk off the field and make, show disrespect to one of the coaches on the other team who had coached him previously the year before or something. It's like head coach for a short time, but then he'd gone over to the Bengals. He left to go to another team, and he walked over and got in his face and acted disrespectful to him. Yeah. Like, well, you need to grow up, and he's just not a quarterback.
No. Well,
quarterbacks don't act like that. Wide receivers act like that.
It's just interesting though that who they ended up getting as their quarterback, which is Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, which is another
Texans, which is another completely issue that I will not touch. It's like
Cleveland's run.
See, those are the things. Dude. Those are the things, Clobby, that get me so much when I look back that Tebow was not really given a fair chance. That's just a personal Gator homework thing with me. He had to take snaps under center, no option. It was like all this stuff, and now, and in the class of because it was like I know that the guys in the 70s and 80s probably had their dark secrets and stuff like that, but out in the public image, they were, you kept that image. Look at Joe Willie Namath,
I'm not so sure Tebow had NFL talent, but he got treated badly simply because of his religion, and that's what I hate about it.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm not so sure he was NFL material.
But just give him a chance. That's the whole thing. No,
they shouldn't have drafted him so high. Then there wouldn't have been so much pressure on him.
Well, yeah. Well, the thing, what really hurt was that McDaniels drafted him before Elway got there. So Elway comes in the next year. McDaniels gets fired, and personally, I look at it as I don't think Elway wanted to succeed because they're still looking for a quarterback in Denver. They rented Peyton for a couple years, and the defense carried them. But could you imagine if Tebow had done well in Denver, what it could have done? He might have overshadowed Elway, but that's just my opinion. I could be wrong.
No, he did win a playoff game, but.
Well, and the thing is, he threw for almost 300 yards. He was very effective throwing the football when
Elway was impatient.
Yeah,
he wanted to win right away. He saw this tiny window that Peyton Manning was going to come back. He felt like he had some juice left, and that if that had not occurred, if Peyton had become available, he might have kept Tebow a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Just because he didn't
it's
have much
fun
else
to-
and see what happened.
That's what's always fun about this, walking back and looking at it and stuff like that. But like Small Time said, he won that play game. That was the
He
first
did
year of the
against the
new
Steelers.
overtime rules, where
Yep.
where it wasn't sudden death per se unless you scored a touchdown on the first drive, and that
Right.
was
and he got a touchdown on the first
on
one.
the first drive.
I mean,
That
look,
was first play or second play. It
I
was
think
really
it's one of
quick.
the first plays. Now the Steelers had a decimated defense last year.
Yeah.
That year they were really, their defense was all injury ridden, but that
Yep.
doesn't take away from
Yep.
Tebow, getting that great play there.
Absolutely. So, well, let's finish looking at. We've talked about the AFC East, the North, real quickly. Here's a stunning development in the AFC South.
Look at that! Look at them Jags, boy.
Am I looking at that right?
You are, because the Jags have to. I don't know what they have to do. I guess they have to just win out. Really?
Yep.
They went out. They got it.
Well, actually, we'll look at it in a second. They could lose this week, but they have to win against the Titans in 2 weeks.
They're going to go on the road and whip the crap out of the Texans. So you're pretty good.
Yep.
They're probably going to win that. So
yep, they'll be 7-9 like the Titans, but it comes down to they'll both be 7-9. So the winner of the last game is between the Jaguars and the Titans.
Jess is here.
Real quick to Jess. Hey, Jess.
Hey, Jess.
Welcome.
I love you.
Welcome.
I love your Dalek.
Yeah.
We have ladies here today, man. You get more ladies than I do. Love it.
Dude, I like it. You should have seen the one Fortnite stream night. I had all ladies on the
Nice.
panel with me playing. And let me say hi to Brian Hepburn.
Brian. What's up, buddy?
Yes, welcome. And for any new people, please leave a subscribe, like. We've hit 104 tonight, Clobby, at least.
Yeah,
So,
excellent.
upward
Excellent.
and onward. But yes, welcome, Brian. Good to see you. And thanks for being
Brian,
here and putting the links
yeah.
in, Jess.
Well, I don't know if he's going to be Johnny Manziel level bad, but Baker is on his third team, dude. So,
yep, it's he's
and
got to land somewhere and stick.
Well,
but back to our situation with the South. It's like Tennessee's a quarterback mess. Tannehill has been put on injured reserve, so they're between Malik Willis, who played at Liberty last year, and Josh Dobbs, a former Tennessee Volunteer quarterback who made his first start the other night.
Yeah, he played last night. Yeah,
and they're coming to Jacksonville, so you might actually.
I think you're going to run them. I think you're going to end up with a pretty damn nice 9-win season and win your division.
That is going to be unexpected because, like I told you about Oscar Mayer last year, who didn't even make the full season. They had 10 wins. It was disastrous around here. It was like, I mean, you would have thought Meyer was this disciplined and all stuff, but he didn't even really do college right. I mean, it just, the locker rooms, the stories about instances. There's one with a kicker that got, he supposedly slapped or touched hard, and then the thing coming back from Cleveland where he stayed up there in the photo. All that sideshow is not here this year. Doug Peterson.
Doug Peterson's a good fit.
There's one of the players recently that was quoted that he was asked, "What's the difference this year?" And he just said, "Coaching." That's all he said.
The big leagues. They call it big leagues for a reason.
Exactly. So,
although the NFL looks so much like college to me in a lot of ways, but we'll get started. We'll get started on that.
I know we can get on so many little rabbit trails with this stuff. And then let's look at the West. The Raiders, Geeky's Raiders are still not fully eliminated, but the Chiefs have won the division. The Chargers are
nobody's catching them.
Spot.
Yeah, that's one.
So the Y
that's all sewed up there.
Yep, wild card. So let me do this, and I'm going to move again to one other thing we got real quick here is the AFC playoff picture currently going into action tomorrow. Obviously, the Bills and Chiefs are at the top. Bills have the head-to-head tiebreaker of the Chiefs. So, there's a pressure to play your starters, to get that home, that top that guaranteed home field advantage. The Bengals,
they lose.
The Bengals, have a seeding. Their game with the Bills comes down for seeding. The three have clinched their divisions. But the Jaguars, I mean, if the Jaguars win, or even if the Titans end up winning the division, you're going to have either an 8. Let's see, the Titans are 7-8. I think this was before last night, so that'd be 7-9. So you're going to have an 8-9 or a 9-7, a 9-8 division winner there, hosting a 500 team would be like the Dolphins. So it's a manageable game for whoever wins, the Jaguars or the Titans that win the South. That first round, whether they play the Dolphins or a Patriot team coming in. Ravens could win out to win the North. The Chargers have clinched a wild card. As we see, the Dolphins have lose the lead if they lose to the Patriots Sunday. And the Patriots are right on their tail.
Coming down to the wire.
Yeah, down to the wire. And this is what makes play. This, I think, Cobby, it's like the college with the polls, but I think this is better because instead of people and computers, it's on the field action.
So
and this is the type of drama I like from the NFL side.
Right.
These games matter. Who wins? And it is dramatic.
That's what I love about it. It's so much better than a stupid-ass beauty contest. As much fun as college football may or may not be, it's still a beauty contest, and it's not straight-up competition. And
right, exactly. Talk is in 2024, it'll be 12-team playoff, but still there's going to be always debates when you have to select people like that. Basically, the Jets could do it, but a lot of people don't hold that hope. Really, I think you're right. I think the Jaguars are going to win out in the division. I mean, even if they win tomorrow, it doesn't settle it. They have to beat the Titans, but Tannehill will not be back till the AFC Championship game at the earliest. Two unproven quarterbacks for Tennessee, even though they have Derrick Henry. You would think the Jaguars have it, but you never count.
They're done. Stick a fork in them.
I'm glad you have that faith. That's good. The Steelers are just down this year, and the Raiders lead the league in blowing leads. So, Geeky, your team does something well. Geeky's great. I've had Geeky on some of the college football shows. We love to go back and forth with our team. She's a Tennessee fan.
Oh, okay. And I've heard her on there.
So cool. We go back and forth. A bit. Being a Gator fan, I don't like how the refs are impacting things, but oh well. And that's true.
Yeah, that's for sure.
What happened the last time the Jaguars were good? They were actually playing in a playoff game at New England. And there was a play that looked like a fumble, but instead of the officials not blowing the whistle and letting it play and let review do its job, they blew it dead. It negated a touchdown, which could have extended their lead.
I remember that. Now,
granted, the play calling got stinky and they kind of went in the tank a little bit early, but at least my thing is I don't mind an official blowing a call if you're adamantly right, but sometimes let it. That's why you have the review process, especially on scoring plays. But my thing is, you're an official out there, take charge, be confident, make your call.
Sure.
But we all know that refs can impact games. One of the biggest areas, and I don't know about you, that I have frustrating are these judgment penalties, the pass interference, some of the holdings. I mean, it really seems very subjective and can change from official to official.
Right. Well, you know how I feel about that. I think nobody agrees with me on this, but I think there needs to be a system in place where a guy in the booth who only after certain types of calls, DPI or OPI, a couple of other ones, 1 or 2, 3, not all the penalties, who can get onto the radio to say, "Hey, pick up that flag. That was wrong." I watched it from up here. I understand you're down there in the middle of it, and he has to have complete authority. And him and New York, whoever it is, to say, "Pick up that flag. That wasn't interference. Pick up that flag that, or you should have, maybe not." I don't even go so far as to say, only in some cases you should be able to say, "You should have thrown a flag that was interference. Throw it right now." Because of the way we got screwed in that NFC Championship game a couple of years ago, the Saints did. I'd say,
I think Brian brings up a good situation too. When the initial call was that there is a penalty, then they say that there was no penalty, then maybe have somebody review it to look to see if the initial call was correct. Because
why not? It's still an official, it's just one from up top,
and it's no different than the other play reviews. I mean, it's no different than all the other reviews.
People say, "Holds up the game." Hey, if it gets something right, whatever.
Right.
And by the way, they still hold up the game. They don't have that now, and they still hold up the game too long. So what's the difference?
Well, that's one of the things I had always said is when they introduced replay and talked about introducing replay, I never liked as like, I was more for the human element, and then at what call the inconsistency of when you do review, when you don't review. So it gets so conditional. You're like, let's either have review or not and be done with it. And it just,
I've always been for it. You got to use technology the way you have it.
But honestly, personally, I'd prefer no review. And even if it was wrong, I'm from the 70s and 80s. We had to live with it then. You know what you did? You just had to suck it up and deal with it till next year. And, I'm
for using it. Technology's a part of the game. I'm for it, but yeah.
You're for it, yeah. Well, it'd be interesting to see how. Like I said, I don't watch baseball, but I think it's in there to some degree now. It's interesting to see how they do it there.
I know
in hockey they do it also. What's
that?
They're
using it in baseball, yeah.
Yeah, and I know hockey they use it for some things to determine goalie interference and stuff like that. See, Geeky, I did some hockey tonight. I got a number of people that want to talk hockey, and I'm like, hey, Mark D, our friend, let's see, is a big hockey fan too. So
that 70s fan does it.
Yeah, I've seen that. I got to check
70s rock fan. Our good friend 70s. He's a hockey guy.
Absolutely. So it's all good. I can talk sports all day, all night. You know me. It's all good. It's all good. And let's see. I got one more meme for everybody, since we're about to wind down. Unless y'all have any other questions. Brian, thank you for those comments there too. Let me see as I'm opening this thing here. Well, I think only New England fans might not like this one, but are you ready for this one, Clobby?
Sure.
How to Tom Brady's balls will be deflated next season. Just
no.
Deflate gate, guys.
Deflate gate.
Oh, that's hilarious. The joke that will live forever, we
Yep.
It will last forever. It's great. But hey. Well, we've taken a look at the AFC, where it sits. We've looked at the playoff positioning. We've looked at the NFC, where things sit. A lot of drama in these next 2 weeks to come. We've had time talking about Clobby and me talking about our history with pro football, what we liked, what we don't like. Clobby, you got any final thoughts here as we start to wrap up?
Oh, nothing much, man. Just glad to be here. Just hey, well, it's going to be fun watching how things shake out, because this is the most exciting time of the year for pro football fans. Playoffs. I know it's a couple weeks to the playoffs, but this is still playoff time. It's playoffs of the playoffs. So, so many names, so many of the games now matter, and going into the last week of the season, a lot of those are going to matter as well. It looks like. So, if you're a fan of this sport, it's changed over the 2 years that I've been sort of away from it. It's sure changed a little bit. I mean, even if the political stuff hadn't chased me away, this idiocy of celebrating after fumbles, like the whole team running into the end zone, makes me sick. So, and it looks like a childy game now. They've changed all the way they number the numberings for positions now. The offenses they run and look kind of weird now, college-y, but you know what? Still, if you're still a fan and still loving it, this is the exciting time of year for you. So we shall see what happens, and I look forward to hanging out with you again.
Absolutely. Well, Clobby, I will talk. I will clarify one thing you said about the reactions with the turnovers. At least they just run to the end zone. One of the worst things in college football, everybody's got a turnover something or scoring a touchdown something. The Gators were so bad, they got like a drum major stick when they score a touchdown. I mean, the Oregon State Beavers have a turnover chainsaw.
This is the worst thing, though, because
it's like, can we just accept we did our job and do what all this gimmick stuff?
It's so idiotic, because remember, the whole defense runs into the end zone and dances around and does a choreographed, rehearsed little bit And I'm like, wait a minute, you guys are wasting time in practice
Yeah.
doing this. What if the next play it gets turned over again? It's just a freaking turnover. You guys are children. We were talking about coaches earlier.
Yeah.
Could you imagine Tom Landry? What Tom Landry or Bill Parcells or Chuck Noll or Vince Lombardi, if they were brought into the future to see that on an NFL football field, they would go. So wait a minute, it's just a turnover.
You know,
those guys wouldn't be those guys would not make any of the teams of those coaches.
You know, it reminds me, back in the 70s, 80s of Billy White Shoes Johnson. That was kind of big at the time when he did his.
At least it was a touchdown, though.
But At
least he was making a touchdown, and it wasn't choreographed. Yeah. He just did it with silly dad.
Well, the turnover, the University of Miami started out with this turnover chain thing, and everybody's jumped on it now. And in college, and it just drives me insane. It's what we're going to do: have a turnover lawnmower or a turnover chainsaw of all things. It's like, what? Anyway, who thinks of these things? Let me say hi to our friend again, Jess, who's a Bears fan, who always, the refs are always biased against us.
Of course.
Well, it sounds like a Gator fan because we always know that Gator fans get the bad calls. So, but yeah.
When I was doing my Saints show a couple of years ago on BTR, I did it with a friend of mine who was a Bears fan. It was the Saints Bears show. So I hear you.
Yep, Clobby's got a lot of experience with all the teams around the league, I guess, and you go way back with this stuff. You want to tell us what you got going on, too?
Let's see here. Well, in about a little less than an hour, 8:30 Central, I'm gonna go on with Nick's Comic Shop gang, Nick and the Comic Shop Boys. So I got to go get ready for that. So basically, that'll be what I'm doing. And tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Central Standard Time, I'm going to do a special New Year's Eve countdown show. So, and that, of course, then start back to the usual grind next week.
Yeah. And I tell you, if you do like real Star Trek, like you can define it for me a little bit better, but if you really like Star Trek and want to get into Star Trek, Clobby's show on Saturday nights is the place to go. It even sucked me in. So I'm a Star Wars snob. I always dismissed Star Trek, but the more I watched and got into it, I started enjoying it and learned, hey, some of this is pretty good and things like that. I will always still be attracted to space battles, though, and that's sometimes where I struggle still. But it is really good. I mean, there's good, there's bad, and then there's Counselor Cameltoe. So
absolutely, Jess, Papa Bear Hallis would be appalled.
Absolutely. So all right, and I put Clobby's link to his YouTube channel in the chat.
Thank you, buddy.
You can look at it there. No problem. Always do. Listen, you've shouted me out so many times, and I thank you for everything and for your support. And you're not only a good friend to the channel, you've been a great friend to the family. And it's really meant a lot to us. And we appreciate everything you've done and do. And,
it's been my pleasure.
Big thank you. So
thank you for having me.
We are still at 104 subs tonight.
It'll go up.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. And if you've come by and have not subbed already, please do so on the YouTube side. Follow us on Twitch. We'll do some gaming on this. Now that we're at 100, I'll probably switch some of the gaming over to Twitch to do stuff there too. But it's been a fun ride also already. I went back and looked. I think August 19th was my first stream. And it was so awkward and it was so goofy.
It takes a while, man.
But yeah, in 4.5 months, thank you to everybody. Thank you to my mods. A few of them are here tonight. Jess, who's also SBD girl, Mrs. I have other mods too. Didn't get here tonight, but I can't do it without them. I can't do it without the missus, for everything she does and support. And, she put this slide that we're about to see, she put this together tonight and, for everything we do. So make sure the latest that will come up, I don't know, kind of taking this weekend by ear, may do something stream related Sunday night, but there may be just gaming between tomorrow and Sunday at times during the day. So the best way to keep up with that is to find me on social media and at Twitter specifically, because that's where I post when I go live. Sometimes spur of the moment, or like, if it's something planned ahead, I will put it out there and give you some warning. Our live streams and videos are on youtube.com at dadmanwalking55, also on Twitch TV, dadmanwalking55. And the streaming schedule is more informal and flexible that you'll see when I go live there. Check me out on Twitter, follow me, and you'll get your notifications if they're turned on. Make sure you ring the bell, turn on the notifications here for the YouTube and Twitch channels so that you can know when we do go live. It's been like I said, it's been fun, Clobby, and all the neat people I met and stuff. It's really, really, really fun. And I just want to say, and I'm rambling a little bit, but I'm trying to get my thoughts here together, because I just really want to say, if this is this is probably my last regular stream for the year. Maybe gaming and stuff, but usually stuff's going on then. But I want to thank everybody that's come here and been part of this again. And, you're a great support. I tell you, there's a lot of stress relief coming in sometimes doing this stuff. You don't mind laughing at me and with me with the boomerang. That's fine. And I'm looking for new topics, do things, and we do chill chats where we just take things at random and have some fun with things. And I just want everybody to have fun while you're here. We can crack jokes with things and, be polite to everybody, and just do something that's different and come and hang out and chill. And we're more than just Fortnite and football. Go check out the videos on the channels, because there's some history, there's some other stuff. I have plans going forward to do more history type shows and live streams or short recordings. I'm trying to do shorter recordings at times for various things. Like the other day, about the Clobby. I know about the unicorn ice cream. Yeah. But just introduced me to unicorn waffles.
Oh boy.
So I combined the ice cream and the waffles. It made a heck of a ice cream sandwich. So nice. It was good. That video is out there for people to watch. But basically, work and so much football and time has dictated a lot of focus on football this fall. January is going to be transitional because of my workload. There'll be more game streams and like just pick up and random topic streams this month. But hopefully starting February and going forward, there can be more history, more other types of shows that we have. So, all right. After that, self promo and everything. But thank you again for helping me get to 100, guys. And I'll have to plan that 24-hour live stream. Clobby, maybe I'll do something where you can pass through for a few minutes to keep me awake at night. But hey, love all you guys. Hope your Christmas went well. Happy New Year. Have a happy New Year. Be safe out there. And we'll look forward to more and great things in 2023. And with that, I bid you all a good night, good day, wherever you are. Take care, all. Bye.
Happy New Year, everybody.